Hey guys, here's a video I've been wanting to do for a while. So I have been talking lately a lot about the book Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means, and how she talked about her mom seemingly living a pretty healthy life other than having a lot of warning signs and symptoms, and of years, decades of these things that when we look back, we're like, oh. And when her mom was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, I believe from like diagnosis to when she died was like 11 days. It was something very, very crazy. And so they were things that weren't really truly seen in the moment as acute. But when she's done so much research now as a doctor and seeing what her mom was actually having happen to her, it all kind of rolled together and made sense. So, you know, just a few of the things she talked about were like in terms of metabolic health. And I can attest to this one. So if you're somebody who, and again, this isn't going to be exactly across the board, but if you were somebody who had gained a lot of weight in pregnancy very, very easily, even if you didn't have toxemia or preeclampsia, which I did not have. I think one of my babies, I started getting a little bit higher up in blood pressure, but never actually like preeclamptic or anything. But large babies, lots of weight gain, and a hard time getting the weight off after having a baby is a big sign of you need to be on your blood sugar. You need to be on your metabolism, metabolic health. Definitely a risk factor, okay, for like diabetes. Even look at your family. Look at your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunts and uncles. What run in there? That doesn't mean you're going to get that. There is something called epigenetics, but we do have to be working harder. I mean, we all should be working hard because we all have something. Okay, and there's other things in the book, and I won't go into all that, but the story I wanted to kind of tell you was what we see on the outside isn't often what's really going on. So you could see the picture perfect of person of what you think healthy would be. Beautiful, beautiful skin, thin, good body composition, energetic, all the things, right? On the outside that you see. That person may have things that they just don't discuss. Some people like to share their problems a lot. Some people keep them all in. And so a lot of people that have like autoimmune issues or just other things that pain, they hide it. And I know some of those people, and you probably know some of those people too. But they could have on the inside high levels of, you know, triglycerides or bone-on-bone arthritis type joints caused from multiple things. You know, the way their body is methylating and processing and handling free radicals and the genetics involved as well, a aggressive breast cancer growing. Okay. So it's not always how we necessarily look and appeal to other people. And my story goes like this. Story time with my overflowing mojo here that always overflows when I blend it up. But before we moved to Manitowoc, we lived in a home on 10 acres and it was beautiful. Loved it. We had all the chickens and we raised 2 pigs and we had, I think at one time we had 29 kittens and a dog and just the life. 40 by 60 garden, canned, did all the things. Loved it. Would love to do it again someday. But this is our season now in town and that's great. Bloom where you're planted. Be a garden in Manhattan. Anyway, and we had this giant tree. And I'll be back 1 second. Sorry about that. Like a lot of things in my life, things get interrupted, and that's okay. You just go on. You learn to go on. So anyway, back to my story. So we had this giant cottonwood tree right in our front yard. We had 10 acres, but like from our house to the road wasn't a ton of room, okay? And it was, I believe someone said it was like a 200-year-old tree. No joke. It was 7 feet across, and around circumference 30 feet. This thing was massive. They had planted like they had put railroad ties around it, the previous owners, you know, like a flower garden, whatever. I mean, it was huge, beautiful. Well, they're kind of annoying, but like a beautiful, beautiful tree. And it looked beautiful. It bloomed every year with its foliage. Because it was so big, like we're talking branches the size of oak tree trunks, we would have it checked by an arborist, you know, the tree bugle. And we had just had it checked like not even a year before, because some of the branches had hung in a way that we thought, ooh, if this tree is not doing healthy, you know, and it would get trimmed back here and there. But if this thing were to like if a branch fell off, it's like going in our house. Like we need to, and oh no, we were told it was very, very healthy. It was trimmed up nice. Well, one day, it was a early summer day, and our son Oliver, I remember he had a baseball game. He was probably only like 6 years old. So he had his little uniform on, was outside playing, and Patience was about 2 and Sam would have been about 12. And they were outside playing right in the front yard. And it had been a wet spring. And so we had already had like a tree or two in our forest fall down, that's a little unnerving because, you know, the kids would be playing. It didn't happen when they were there, but whatever. But they were outside, and all of a sudden Sam comes in and goes, Dad, I hear cracking outside. And Joel was like, what do you mean cracking? He's like, I don't know. I just hear like a loud cracking sound. So Joel goes outside, goes to the front yard, goes up to the tree, and he looks at the tree and he sees literally this split going like right up the trunk. Okay, we're talking a 7-foot wide tree trunk. Oh my goodness. He runs in the house and calmly but urgently tells me, Sam, get the kids, take them down to the barn, because that was far enough away from the house. He's like, Sarah, I'm going to move the whatever car we had at the time out. I want you to move the van out. Go. And I'm like, well, what's happening? He's like, just get in the car and go. I'm like, okay. So I grab my purse with the keys in it, get in the van. Literally, this all happened within, it felt like split seconds, but literally within minutes. Now, I have since learned to be much calmer in emergency situations. This was not one of my brightest moments. So as Joel's getting in the car to back out the one car, and I'm getting in the van to back out, we hear massive cracking, like the sound of a tree falling, basically. And he's like, get out now. And so in my brain, I thought the tree was basically falling onto the garage, and this was my last day on earth. And so in a panic, with the van in reverse, I jumped out of the van, the driver's side door, which the other car was still in the garage because Joe was starting to back it up, kind of pinned myself between the open door. It's funny now, it was not funny then. The open door and the car he was backing out, which made the front door rip off because this thing was going in reverse. And I'm just panicked. And it just rolled out the back of our garage into our driveway. And then there was a nice big drop off down into the grass towards the barn where there was an old shed. And I literally watched this entire thing as I'm running out of the garage, mind you, because it felt like Armageddon. Like that's how loud it was. And I watched my van crash into this small shed. The shed like explodes, like you see just 2x4s and things bursting in the air. Clips that goes through that is going towards now our barn, and I'm chucking after this as fast as my body could get me. I was able to jump back into the van before it crashed into the barn and throw it into park. And then it all ended because by that time the tree had fallen. Now, only half the tree had fallen because as it had split up the crack like this, half fell. So half fell towards our gravel driveway, almost took out the power line, and the other half just stayed there. And our kids are down by the barn safe, watching this spectacle. I mean, truly, it looked like something from a movie scene. I'm looking at my now damaged shed and totaled van. My husband was not that happy with me, but I've learned how to deal with panic much, much better now. But the point being, we just all were in shock. And I remember my 6-year-old now, Oliver, was just white as a ghost. And then Sam was just white. Like, they were just like, what just happened? Patience was only 2, and Sawyer was just his little deer in the headlights, normal stare, how he always was. But this half of this tree was so massive that it was completely blocking our gravel driveway, where like, if you were to stand in front of it, you couldn't have even seen over it. And all of a sudden, some neighbors, I mean, you know, we lived in the country, so you get cars occasionally, but not a lot. I think one car drove by, alerted another neighbor, so all of a sudden, a bunch of our country neighbors started coming over with chainsaws because there was no way we were going to get out of that driveway without that thing being cut up. So that started that. Everyone was okay. But here is the purpose to my story. The inside of that tree was completely hollow, as in like all 6 of us could stand in this stump. Now, granted, the entire thing wasn't, we called the tree person. They came the next day. The whole thing had to obviously be taken down because it was a risk to fall the other way, whatever. So we weren't standing in that thing area while it was still up. But I mean, I have pictures from this. If you ever want to see pictures, I will show you. Absolutely crazy. I mean, standing next to it, you just looked like an ant. And there were just all the branches, which basically were like tree trunks, holes, like raccoon families, tunnels. You know, I mean, you could tell raccoons were in there. And then the actual, like a really funny thing was where it split and there was a branch, tree trunk, there was this old Chucky shoe. Like, it had grown into the tree because previous owners, the original owners of that farm, they actually now, so that boy at the time, who would have been probably like 9, 10, he was now like in his late 50s. He lived up the road and he had come down because this is his like old farm, you know, homestead. And, you know, everyone's talking and just like, wow. And then, you know, when we saw the shoe, he was like, no way, that's my shoe. And he remembered being a kid and climbing in that tree and getting his shoe stuck once. And it was stuck in a way that he just couldn't get it out. And you know how kids are sometimes, they just don't go back and get what they need. And parents probably forgot. And so the thing just grew into the tree. So there was this Chucky, but we have told that story so many times, but the real meaning behind it, I like to use as an analogy, is this beautiful, massive 200-year-old tree that had been checked over and over, and we were just told over and over, it's fine, it's healthy, nothing to worry about, was actually dead to its core. It was the fakest thing, really. And you never would have known on the outside. And so we can do the checks, but unless we're actually doing the maintenance from the inside out, we're not fixing anything. See, we even had the tree guy come and do the maintenance. He was chopping off things here and there, just like we do, right? When we see lines on our face, we maybe just go get the quick fix filler or put on more makeup or drastically try to lose some weight to, you know, to take off something somewhere, go get our tummy done, you know, and those are all things that, again, could definitely be useful in certain situations, but what has caused it to be that way in the first place? Again, every tree is going to grow old and eventually die. Every one of us humans are going to eventually cash out. You know, no one's living forever. But we weren't made to age so quickly and so painfully and so sick. And especially in a country where we have such a high income and we pay the most for healthcare out of any other country, but we actually have the highest healthcare costs and the sickest, fattest people in the entire world with the income comparable to other countries of our income and, you know, status of how we live. We have just our little neighbor to the north, you know, things like having cereals, the same brand, the same kind of cereal, but yet their country only allows natural colors. And our government in our country says, nah, put in the fake dyes. It's fine because it's cheaper for us and then we can still sell it for more and then it's still us making the money. Unless it makes you angry or you don't care, you'll just keep doing the same thing. But I know a lot of you care. I know a lot of you don't want to feel crappy. I know a lot of you are sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you don't want your kids to be part of the 50% that are now obese, overweight, or heading into obesity, or one of the 18, almost 20% of teenagers with fatty liver disease, or one of the 30, I don't even know what the percentage is off the top of my head, with diabetes as a child, type 2. So let's start looking at things from the inside out and taking care of things from the inside out and encouraging each other to do that. Nobody's going to be perfect. This isn't a judgmental, I see she's eating that. Oh, she talks about that. Did you see she had a... That isn't it. Because you know what? We've all been raised on this. We've all been programmed to be one way. It's going to take one little step at a time, but every little step counts. So be part of the be part of the solution, not the problem. And join this movement to take probably what's truly a pandemic, the health of each and every one of our citizens of this country because of what we are fed and exposed to, and make a big deal out of that. So, all right, have a great day. You can comment any questions below.